My parents first separated when I was 10 in the summer of 1969. Though my life was now swaying precariously on a hanging bridge, what I really worried about was going with my father and younger brother on our weekly excursions, this time to a local amusement park. However, my parents reconciled that muggy Sunday afternoon, only to separate for good 12 years later. And I was bummed out that I wouldn't be whirling about on the rides or stuffing my face with soft-serve ice cream. My parents are good people, devoted to family, active in the community, but light years apart in personality and temperament. My mother is gregarious and loves to dance. One time she exchanged addresses with a young man from India at an airport lounge and insisted I write to him. She used to dance at weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, local clubs. My father used to stutter and avoided public speaking. He didn't even have the nerve to speak or chant any prayers publicly at my bar mitzvah ceremony in 1972. But he had charm. He worked a weekend job at a local deli and referred to each woman as young lady, even the old powdered-faced ones. And I often saw them beam as he served them. It was no surprise to anyone when my father moved out in 1981 when I was 22. They just didn't get along. Shortly after, my mother sat me down, visibly upset that my father already had a girlfriend. "When your father and I first separated," she spluttered, "he had a girlfriend, a Puerto Rican girlfriend, and they went to pick out engagement rings on Park Street, which was near the luncheonette my father owned and where my brother and I ate hot dogs off the grill and French fries that bubbled in the fryer oil every Thursday evening." I felt the anger rising deep within my stomach, spreading across my body, vine-like and pulsing. I wanted to scream, shout, stamp my foot, and punch the source of my anger, my mother. How could she, I thought, dredge up something more than a decade old? I'd instantly forgiven my father because I knew he was such a nice guy and reckoned he deserved a respite from someone I viewed as emotionally unbalanced. My mother often used stories as a form of emotional blackmail, a way to rope us into her neurotic orbit and side with her through whatever turmoil she'd helped to create. She justified her night terrors and clinginess with stories about an uncle who groped her when she was 4 or 5, sharing with us how his slimy hand slid across the seat of the car and under her dress, or how my late paternal grandmother insisted my mother should give my brother and me away to a foster home because my mother had suffered from acute postpartum depression after my brother was born. I really was too young to handle the emotional impact of her tales. And on the day she told me about my father, I nearly hated her for her words. But she was the one who woke up in the middle of the night and comforted us when we were sick, played number and word games with us before bed, took us to the town library, and taught me to drive. While I was in Israel for my junior year of college, she wrote me every single day and sent out these letters as a weekly diary. One time I laughed with my roommate and his brother as I read how she detailed what she'd had for lunch. A couple of years later, I threw out all her letters as I cleaned house. She prided herself on being the first to call my brother and me on our birthdays, even if, because of the time difference, she woke me before 7. I used to hold the phone away from my ear and mumble, "uh-huh," into the receiver every couple of minutes when she and I talked. She often went on and on and on. My brother and I reminisce about that mother these days, for example, such as when she guilted him into letting her stay with him in his apartment, sleeping on the floor for a few months as she escaped an unsatisfying relationship, but nearly causing him a nervous breakdown. We reminisce now because my mother, just 77 years young, lies in a skilled nursing facility in Connecticut, one town from where we grew up in Bloomfield, beset by Lewy body's disease, a brutal combination of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, wearing diapers, needing help to eat and drink, and often unaware who my brother or stepfather are. There were times my brother and I wanted my mother to just shut up and exercise a little restraint. Now, in a cosmic blast dripping with irony, she says little without being prompted. And my brother cried when he turned 51 because he knew there'd be no phone call from her. There are more stories and more questions and more answers. There is so much I really want to know. More details of her abuse and other family secrets. For that same uncle, my mother said another time, fondled my maternal grandmother, sister of the uncle's wife, as she giggled in the car's front seat. But the secrets and the lies and the other stories are gone forever, having disappeared through the air like vapor. And there is nothing I can ever do to retrieve them. Thank you.